All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to be talking to you today. It is Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Let me adjust my settings here just a little bit. Everything always gets messed. Yeah, I got started a little bit, tiny bit late today, this morning. Just had a lot of stories I really wanted to get over, make sure I got everything, all my ducks in a row before starting. So that explains it. If you were wondering why we began a little after, 12:01 or so. So I called it, Hunter Cash, Chavez, DeREMER are the, the thumbnail, right? And that's because I'm going to focus to a significant degree, but not exclusively today, on Hunter Biden's pardon, his father announcing that he had pardoned the son for the tax evasion charges and gun charges that Biden was convicted of by a special prosecutor, Justice Department special prosecutor, during Biden's term. And this is getting a lot of criticism. The New York Times doesn't seem to like it. I personally don't have a big deal about it. These weren't the worst things in the world. It isn't good. There's definitely was corruption, but presidents have a lot of power, and I don't think this is a terrible miscarriage of justice. After all, Biden did pay back the back taxes that he owed, and the gun charge seems a little bit make weight, right? Like they were looking, obviously, it was politically minded, they're motivated. There was a special prosecutor. I understand the special prosecutor was nominated and was appointed during Biden's term, and you can make arguments that it was, the Merrick Garland Justice Department, but still they're totally insulated from the president and his, in this case, Justice Department. So I just can't lose it about Hunter Biden. I try to call balls and strikes as I see them, and I'm extremely critical of Democrats, as I am often of Republicans, and I'm going to continue to be in today's program. But when it comes to the Biden prosecution, I can't really get all exercised and lose a lot of sleep. I always thought Arlen on the Halitics Facebook page, which you should, by the way, join and you should participate in if you're not already a member of Halitics on Facebook, the group page. I always thought Arlen actually had the better argument there when debating with some of the more conservative, or I don't want to say conservative, but the Trump supporters who would bring up the Hunter Biden laptop and the Hunter Biden corruption. Look, Hunter Biden's kind of an armpit, right? He's a sleazeball, no question. He absolutely peddled influence, and Joe helped him a little bit, got on the phone apparently with some Chinese executives at one point. He did fly over to Ukraine when Hunter was made the director, or one of the directors of a oil company, petro company there, Burisma. So a lot of issues going on, natural gas, whatever the hell it was. So certainly Biden's hands aren't totally clean, and it looks sleazy, but look, the conviction happened. Trump's going to take office. This is not something I'm going to spend a lot of time worrying about. It's getting a lot of media attention. I want to also focus on that, and I will. But the major focus of this program really has to be the biggest victims of American empire, of corporatism, of greed, of the billionaire class. And I don't know that there's anybody suffering more right now than the people of Israel. No one's causing more suffering than Israel with the support of the United States. The victims, first and foremost, being the residents of Gaza. So we see 37 more killed Sunday. Death toll there nearing 44,500. It is just horrific. It's just as bad as anything can be. And I mentioned, I said that it is the worst place in the world right now to be, is Gaza, as a direct result of the Israeli-U.S. onslaught into that enclave, that concentration camp between the desert and the sea that Israel has occupied and maintained. So that is as bad as a place can be. And we hear, Sudan, there's terrible suffering there. Syria, quite a bit of suffering there too. And the United States bears a lot of responsibility too for what's happening in Syria. No question about that. But we're directly complicit in the Gaza Holocaust being perpetrated by Israel. And so I will not stop talking about that. I know some people don't like to hear about it. They think I overfocus on it. There's other more important issues. I don't know what those more important issues could possibly be. And especially if you're an American, especially if you're disgusted by the pro-military, pro-corporate policies of the U.S. government. All right, 240-242-5646 is your phone number if you want to join me. And I was testing the ringer before I went live, and it didn't ring, so I'm going to try to keep an eye on it. I am sort of expecting calls today because, and there it's ringing now. So hopefully, if you do call, it's ringing because I tested. I am not aware of anybody calling in this moment, but I should notice if you do call. As of what did I say? Okay, so as of midnight, 166 identified victims since last Wednesday. The numbers were a little bit confusing to me when I did the Friday program. So hopefully, I don't want to say hopefully when we're talking about death counts, but presumably the number by the TRT, which I believe is Turkey magazine there, TRT World or Turkey Journal, Turkish Journal will be accurate, 44,466. We'll get into the Patel and DeREMER, Chavez DeREMER, who Trump nominated for the Department of Labor, Patel to be the director of the FBI. Interesting choices. I think the Chavez DeREMER pick looks like it's a pretty good one, something that we should support. Patel getting a lot of very negative attention by the media, and I think some of it is just false. It's just unfair. He certainly doesn't seem like any kind of a brilliant legal mind. He doesn't have a great record or anything like that, but it's a little bit unfair, maybe, the criticism he's getting as well. All right, looks like we've got Billy. Billy is in town, and I will not keep you, Billy, even though I have a lot of stories I want to get to, but you're joining me. It was great to see you, by the way. Let folks know you're here in the D.C. area, and I'm so glad we were able to get together. How you doing today?
Doing just fine. I'm leaving today, and it was great seeing you. I loved it.
It was really nice, Billy. You're a close friend and dear friend, and I was very happy you were able to make it out to my house. No problems, right, with the navigation system, I suppose?
No, not at all. Got there and back. Waze works well.
I was thinking about you a little bit, how nice, we have problems. A lot of technology can separate us, but you were talking a little bit about how you had kind of built up a new network of friends through your internet and through connecting with like-minded folks in a social media group.
Yeah, it's called Clubhouse. It's a voice sharing thing where we talk to each other live. And I've made a lot of wonderful friends on Clubhouse.
Your audio is a little sketchy. I think it may be on your end, but what's on your mind, sir?
Nothing. I just wanted to join you at this moment. It's too crazy a world for us to start picking it apart. It feels to me like I live amongst monsters. Are we living? I would say we are, but your thoughts in a true dystopian nightmare. Exactly. And, I really wanted to I was hoping to be part of the cabinet, but I'm not a sexual predator, so I don't have a predator.
Well, I don't know. Is Kash Patel the new FBI nominee for director? Is he? I haven't heard he's been molesting anybody. I know he's written a couple of children's books where the hero's name is King Donald. Were you aware of that, by the way?
I actually was. Did, yeah.
It is hard to make this stuff up, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If you had written it, nobody would have accepted your thing as, just dystopian science fiction. The world does not appear real to me at this point.
Well, I got there was a story in the New York Times about him dated October 14th, where they call him the wizard in Trump's world, self-described, and Elizabeth Williamson gets it a little wrong. I mean, I don't know that she got it wrong, but she predicted that he might be the CIA director, but as I understand it, it's FBI, right, Billy?
Yeah.
Make sure I got that one right. He's the FBI director nominee. Is that correct?
I'm concerned for my nephew, my wife's nephew, because he's an FBI guy, and I discovered, they wouldn't tell me what his assignment was, but one day around midnight I turned off C-SPAN, and there was the FBI director testifying, and right behind him was my nephew. So he's the guy who's been closest to the FBI director. That's been his assignment, to protect the FBI director. I wonder if he'll be fired as a result.
Well, I mean, you do. That is the prerogative of power, right? You get to fire people at the top of agencies so that you have your folks there.
Yeah, but they should be competent. They shouldn't be sexual predators. And
well, is Patel's not a predator, is he? I haven't heard of that.
The idea that you're putting somebody in charge of an agency to just fire lots of people, I don't know. You really should, there's something called for cause. You should have a reason. There should be a problem. You don't get to just fire people because they've been loyal, to the Constitution more than Donald. I mean, what kind of world are we creating now?
I mean, isn't that democracy? Trump was elected. I don't think there's any real question. There's no question about that. He was elected. These are government agencies. He's the executive director. If you took over a business, I don't like I don't like it a lot of times when people analogize between business and government, but it is true. If you take over a business, you can fire people at will. That's your prerogative.
No, you can't. There's something called the National Labor Relations Board. There are laws in lots of states that say, again, you have to fire someone for cause. You got to have a reason. You just can't go in and say, you won't be able to pay your mortgage or feed your children because I feel like it.
As I understand the law, the general presumption is that you serve at will of your employer. It is true there may be various contracts. If you're a member of a union, you have protections. The top people in these agencies, the directors and their underlings, they don't have those protections.
Well, they should.
They can find other jobs. You know what? I don't have a lot of sympathy. I have sympathy for small fry, the rank and file, the secretaries, people like that. And presumably they'll keep their jobs unless there's reorganizations.
But if you sign a loyalty oath to Trump, you get to keep your job. Would you sign such a thing?
I don't think they're going to make him sign. They're going to make people sign loyalty oaths. But that would be a problem. I'm with you. That's scary.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Billy, because you and I disagree on actually a lot. Unfortunately, as close as we are, we have disagreements. So one of your views, one of the areas where I think we disagree most strongly is Israel. And, I call it a genocide, and I know you don't. I just had the Tulsi slide up, but I didn't get to this yet.
The definition of genocide was when you're trying to wipe out an entire people. That's not what Israel's trying to do. They're just trying to get their hostages back.
So, according to this report, just came out today from the United Nations, Gaza now has the highest number of child amputees per capita in the world. Is it helping get the hostages back for Israel to go in there and, do whatever they're doing, chopping off children's arms, shooting them in the legs? Is that helping get the hostages back?
No. But, what if they did nothing after being attacked so brutally? Then they would be attacked the next day and the next day. You have to fight back. That's the only thing these kinds of people understand. You have to fight back. You can't just let them destroy you like they did in the Holocaust. You can't get in the boxcar willingly. You can't be people of the book when people are trying to kill you.
Well, isn't the better analogy now between Israel and the Nazis and between Gaza and the Jews of the Shoah?
Only for Jew haters.
But the death count is at astronomical levels in Gaza, not in Israel.
We're owed 6 million by this world. We're not anywhere close to 6 million. Let me know when we get there. Then we'll stop. How about that?
You can't believe that. Come on, man. You don't believe that. You don't think it's the Jews, the Jewish people have a pass to kill 6 million?
I've had it with Jew hatred. You got to stop Jew hatred. My attitude is every time you kill a Jew, we should kill 10 of you.
Yeah, see this, I don't think you really believe that. I hope not. I hope you're just saying that for...
Absolutely. What's wrong with saying you get to live and I get to live? But if you mess with me, I will fight back 10 times harder than whatever you do to me. What's wrong with that? Because if you don't mess with me, everybody gets to live in peace. How do you dare suggest that we should do anything other than that?
They're not fighting. Israel isn't fighting back against those who perpetrated. I'm sorry, Bill. I was just.
The world loves it when the Jew's the victim. They don't like it when we're the perpetrator. Yeah, I get it.
I don't think that's even accurate. If you look at what's going on around the world, it seems, at least in this country and in Western Europe, there's far too much sympathy, in my opinion, for those who are committing the crimes, the war crimes, not those who are perpetrating them. Don't go anywhere, Billy. Let me play this clip because you're right in my wheelhouse here with all my prep. So I've got a clip here. This is from Medea Benjamin. She posted this, of course, from Code Pink. Let me start it right now so you don't see that black field. Here we go. So she's going to be confronting by the way, the man that I assume you're happy about, Trump tapped for State Department, Marco Rubio. Before we actually play the clip, your thoughts on that? Are you pleased with the Rubio pick?
Why are you so unhappy about Marco? I can accept him. I'm not happy.
I don't assume. I asked.
That's all. Yeah.
Say it again. He's okay?
I said he's not a sexual predator, so, he's at least not a criminal.
All right, let's hear the clip. See the clip with Medea.
Rubio, will you call for ceasefire?
No, I will not. On the contrary. Are you filming it? I want you guys to get this. I want them to destroy every element of Hamas they can get their hands on. These people are vicious animals who did horrifying crimes. And I hope you guys post that.
And what about the civilians that are being killed every day?
Hamas should stop hiding behind civilians, putting civilians in the way. Hamas knew that this was going to lead to this. So Hamas should stop building their military installations underneath hospitals.
So you don't care that 15,000 have died? You don't care about the babies that are being killed every day?
I think it's horrifying. I think it's terrible, and I think Hamas is 100% to blame. That's what I think. Make sure you post that, please.
All right, so Billy, let me stop the video. Did you catch all of that?
Yeah, I heard it.
Reaction.
Yeah, I'm opposite Medea. I'm with the guy.
So you're with Rubio. You like Trump's pick at this point.
Let us live in peace. Well, here's the problem. The Gazans, there's something wrong. Obviously, Hamas is such horrible human beings that they forced themselves on the Gazans. Had the Gazans done the right thing, which is while they slept, while Hamas slept, the Gazans should have slit their throats. And then the hostages are released and nobody has to die. But that's not what happened.
I don't know if you can see the comments in the chat, Billy, but you're really getting roasted up by Emogi. He's using, well, he's not happy with you. Let me put it that way. He's lumping you in with Bibi, and you've said you don't like Bibi, but you're still okay with what he's doing, or you're not okay?
I'm not okay. I hate Bibi. But, again, you attack a Jew, you deserve to have your family destroyed.
But the children aren't the ones who did the attacking, and many of even if I agreed with your formula, which I wholly reject, many of the people are members of families that have nothing to do with Hamas. They're blowing up apartment buildings, schools, hospitals.
You only worry about the Arab children, not the Jewish children. So, what's the point of the conversation?
Well, why do you say that? I do care for all of the children, but
No, you don't. What should the Jews have done after October 6th? What would you have had them do?
I would have had them say that they're terribly sorry for oppressing Palestine for 75 years, that they understand why oppressed people would respond in the way they did. They do think the perpetrators need to be at least brought to justice to defend their actions, that it was a terrible, terrible thing that happened, and they're going to take their jackboot off the throat of Gaza and the West Bank, and so that hopefully that the hatred that inspired this will slowly dissipate. That's what they should have done.
You're a joke. You know, they didn't attack Netanyahu. They didn't attack the IDF. They attacked a bunch of kids at a rock festival. They're disgusting, lower than low. They're rapists, and I don't care how many of them die. I hate the fact that children die, but that's what people do. They hide behind the kids. They build their tunnels under hospitals and schools. They are the scum of the earth, and they have to be removed. And if the people around them don't remove them, then the Jews will.
All right, Billy. You know what? This is an error. This is an error. Really, I find your views are just not. I mean, I can't accept them. So, unless you want to pivot, because I'll give you all the time in the world. You're a dear friend, but this is a view. You know, and if I took the view of, say, Joy-Ann Reid, I would have to cancel you, right? Because if you're with someone whose politics you disagree with, according to Joy Reid from MSNBC, you're supposed to stop talking to them and have nothing to do with them. I would never do that, but yeah, this is an area where we're just 100% in disagreement.
We can't talk about this. There's no point to talk about this. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. I wish you were.
My one superpower is that I don't need everyone to love me. I'm going to tell the truth to people who don't want to hear it.
All right. Anything else before I let you go? Any other news? I was going to focus on some of the Trump picks. Your thoughts on DeREMER, the labor pick.
I don't have any thoughts. It seems like she might be a good pick, actually. You know, I'm more focused on the picks that are just totally inappropriate. You know, like education. You know, she's even a sexual predator in that they have sexual predators. They protect it at the WWE. I mean, the idea that Trump is basically, he's doing what Orban does, because that's his favorite guy. He's just making the norms of this country no longer matter, making us sort of hate the politics in general, so he just gets to be, I think it's called president for life. What do you think?
We'll see if that happens. I'm inclined to believe that in 4 years we'll have another president-elect whose last name won't be Trump. So that's where I am at this point. But you could be right, Billy.
Who's running the Republican Party today?
Well, the president is considered to be the head of the party. If the president's party is if the president, whatever party is in power in the White House, that president is the head of his or her party. So yeah, Trump would be the head, or he will be the head.
No. Well, Lara Trump is what I'm talking about. Lara Trump is the head of the Republican Party.
Oh, she's considered, because I know Obama was considered the head of the Democratic Party when he was president. Biden is now.
I mean. But the people who run the organization, Trump comes in and he puts his daughter-in-law in. Guess who's going to be your next senator from Florida?
I don't know. Eric Trump? Donald Trump? I don't know.
Lara Trump. That's right. She's throwing her hat in the ring. So if you don't think we're going to end up with just Trumps running this country, you're not paying attention, my friend.
Yeah, we'll see, Billy. I mean, let's focus on what's happening now, the really awful things that we are seeing around our world and around our block, rather than
Pam Bondi,
possible horrible things happening.
So Pam Bondi, the Justice Department suggestion, she screwed her entire state out of money they had coming from that university that Trump ran that was a total scam. And when she got a $25,000 donation, suddenly she said, no, I'm not going to be part of this, this trial.
Well, we agree on Bondi. I think she's very bad, and I think she's, I blame the Democrats because they should have recognized with Gates they had better than they could have expected in a lot of ways, and supported him and called for him to remain as in that position, to be confirmed.
When you say
as Attorney General.
Your mind is so twisted. You think Gates should be in charge of justice, a criminal in charge of justice.
He would be a better Attorney General for the American people than Pam Bondi will be.
Pardon for a second. Let's talk about the pardon for a minute, right? This new pardon.
Of Hunter? Okay, yeah. Last topic. I'm going to give you Hunter, and then I'm going to let you go, Billy, because...
Okay, perfect.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I'm not that upset about the Hunter pardon. What I think, it reminds me of the pardons that Trump did when he was president. He pardoned his fellow criminals because he didn't want them to testify against him. It seems Hunter's pardon is so small change compared to that.
We agree on this as well. I don't like Pam Bondi. You don't like Pam Bondi. I think Matt Gaetz would have been a better choice than Pam Bondi. You don't think that, or at least you think he's so bad we shouldn't even entertain that option. But we also agree that this is not a big deal. Look, everything is so corrupt in government anyway. Hunter Biden's sins were relatively small change, and he paid the money back that he owed. And the gun charge, I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, it's no big deal.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Yeah. Hey, good chatting with you again, my boss.
Always a pleasure, Billy. Glad we were able to discuss some important issues. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, so Billy getting some heat there in the chat. Billy getting some heat there in the chat. I had muted myself for a moment. I did mute myself. I muted the... Yeah. So, I get it. If I just heard Billy without knowing the guy, I'd be really pretty disgusted by the comments about Palestine. And I guess I can compartmentalize it a little bit because he's a friend, but yeah, the views are not, in my view, they're not within the, they shouldn't be allowed, they're not acceptable. They're not within the range. Because, there's always, like if you defend the Nazis, what they did, I don't think that's within the range. That's sort of outside of it. But people do. And I know a lot of people say, well, if you defend Trump, that's outside the range. I'm not going to say Trump is in that same category. But, we all have our edges, right? Our limits, our Overton window, if you will. And so my Overton window shuts before you get to it's okay what Israel's doing. 240-242-5646. Biden saying, and I want to just get to his statement here about the Hunter Biden pardon, because, I don't really have an issue with it, but here he says, I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making. I kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. So the New York Times doesn't agree with that. They're saying, no, you didn't stay out of it because you pardoned him. So there's the Justice Department and the courts aren't going to sentence him. I think the way Biden parses that is reasonably fair. He did stay out of the Justice Department. He did say he did let them prosecute. He did let the conviction transpire. But that said, once it went through, he's now saying, okay, the prosecution ran its course, but in my view, he paid his debt to society, and I'm going to pardon my son. And I get that. The problem is Biden did more than simply say he would not interfere. He, through Karine Jean-Pierre, and I don't have the clips here, I'm not going to show them to you, repeatedly had her say, or she said, and presumably knew that it was okay with Biden. She was authorized to say he's not going to pardon. Several times Karine Jean-Pierre, or at least once, but I think it was more than one time, she said flat out, President Biden is not going to pardon Hunter. And then he did. Now, you can't have your Spocks say something and then you do something different and say, well, I never said that. I said I'd stay out of the Justice Department's prosecution. I didn't say I wouldn't pardon. But your Spock said you would. If you heard her say that, or she said it and she wasn't authorized to say it, then you correct the record. The next day she goes out in front of the media, and she says, I misspoke. The president has not made a decision yet whether he might pardon his son if his son is convicted. She could have said that at any time. The White House could have simply issued a clarification, but they didn't. It was on the record from the White House official spokesperson, Karine Jean-Pierre. President Biden is not going to pardon Hunter Biden. And then he did. So clearly he went back on his word. Now, is that the biggest thing in the world? I don't think so. I'm not going to have a huge cow about it, but let's be honest here. Let's not pretend. What I hate is the parsing. Let him say, yeah, I did say that, or at least Ms. Pierre said that. But I thought a lot about it, and I decided I don't want my son going to jail. I don't think it's fair. I didn't think they were going to try to put him in jail when we said that. So he filled out the gun form. Well, he filled it out dishonestly. It's not just Hunter wasn't convicted of illegal gun charges simply because of the way he filled out the form. That seems a little bit, disingenuous to say the least. He said on his gun form he wasn't an addict. One of the questions was, are you addicted to any substances? And he was. I think he was definitely an alcoholic, and apparently also may have been addicted to various prescriptions. That said, lots of people say that. You don't think there's a lot of guys all over this country going out deer hunting with a couple of six-packs in them? I mean, you're going to kill a Bambi. You probably are. You got to be pretty lit to do that, right? You're going to kill a little fuzzy animal. You're going to shoot at a defenseless bird. You're probably pretty wasted, I would think. Who else does stuff like that? Maybe when you're 17, but not when you're 37, 47. You lie out in the... So I'm sure lots of those guys and women who fill out those forms are saying they're not addicted when they are. You don't go to jail for that. It's also, I think, absolutely true about this claim that he paid his taxes back. I understand he did. You don't usually go to jail for that. So it's not that big a deal. And it was totally over. I mean, the charges, it's serious what he did. He clearly tried to evade taxes. And maybe in a perfect world, he should go to jail. But I just think this is not something, I try to call it like I see it. Now, it's not quite the same. Well, yeah, I mean, the Times points out that Trump pardoned his father and his son, what was it? Kushner would be his daughter's father-in-law, right? He pardoned his son-in-law's father. Okay, Kushner had already served time. Again, I can't get all exercise about that. Making him ambassador to France, what kind of qualifications they have to be ambassador to France? It's just a political plum, whatever. I mean, again, I'm not going to get all bent out of shape about that stuff. What I will call out, though, is the dishonesty, the media lying, really, the New York Times lying about Kash Patel. The guy really, I mean, he writes these stupid children's, I don't want to say stupid, writes these books, with Donald Trump as some kind of a hero. Apparently, he had mediocre reviews as a lawyer, although there's one thing I like about him, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But let me just say what I really have a problem with is the New York Times using the pardon to go after Trump and say, this is really bad. Here, Biden is politicizing the pardon process, and now it kind of gives Trump an out when he's focusing on retribution and revenge against Biden. And his justice, which, by the way, I think, and the New York Times makes this like it's a problem because Biden's not above it, right? Biden's not being better than Trump. Trump pardoned his daughter's father-in-law. Now Biden pardons his son, and the New York Times is showing some issues with that. And now they're saying, and this is a real problem. Now Trump is going to go after Hunter for other things, right? Like corruption charges, because that's not what he was charged with. He was charged with tax. He was charged with the gun license deal. So the Times doesn't like it. And they say he's made it clearer than ever that his second term will be about retribution and revenge, identifying as their proof, the Times saying the proof that he will focus on revenge and retribution is this guy, Kash Patel, a loyalist who has vowed to go after Trump's enemies. Here's the problem with that. The Times doesn't provide any evidence that he's going to go after, that Kash Patel has said he's going to go after the Trump's enemies. I couldn't find any evidence of that, and I looked for that. Where is it? Where is it? It's hard to prove the negative. I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it. I don't see it. Where's this proof? Trump is this vengeful, second-term president who's bitter and angry that he was subject to political witch hunts. He was. But where's the proof of that? I mean, he was subject to unfair witch hunts. That's clear. The Russiagate hoax, being impeached because he tried to not have a war with Russia. Remember, he stopped the flow of arms to Ukraine, and yeah, it looked really bad. I get it. He was trying to leverage the delivery of weapons to Ukraine in return for some sort of prosecution against Hunter Biden. That was the argument that Trump apparently made on the phone, or somebody said he made on the phone. And it looks really bad, right? Oh, we'll give you the arms, but only if you prosecute the son of the former vice president. The problem with that is what Trump was doing was the right policy. We shouldn't have been sending arms to Ukraine. He was tamping down hostilities, and that's what the Democrats impeach him for. Here's the link, because if you go into those New York Times articles, when they say he's focused, Trump is focused on retribution, they link to their own article. Well, look at the date of this article. And you can see Trump vowing retribution foretells a second term of strike. So this is well over almost 2 years ago. That's how far back they had to go to an article they published over 2 years, almost 2 years ago. It's a load of crap. That's Maggie Haberman. She's like the foremost victim of Trump derangement syndrome. She suffers from it more than anybody else. And then if you actually read what they claim is his insistence he's going to seek retribution, leveraging his power for political reprisals. Oh no, this is so scary. But if you actually look at it, at what they say, they don't have anything. He just said at some speech at the conservative CPAC, he said, I'm your retribution to those of you who were unfairly targeted when I was president. I'm your retribution. What he's saying is, I'll come back into power. I'm your retribution. In other words, by me becoming president, you'll get back what you should get back. He wasn't saying, I'm going to put all these people in jail. And it's clear he wasn't. He didn't say, I'm going to get, Adam Schiff. And I'm going to get, who's that guy? Raskin, right? Because they were the ones who led the prosecutions against me. I'm going to go after those people. He didn't say that. He said, for those of you that were locked up by Mueller, that the Mueller investigation caught up in its net, I'm your retribution. In other words, the people hate me. The Democrats hate me. The Democratic Party hates me. So when I win, we're getting back at them. That's what he said. And the arguments that Patel somehow proves that by nominating Patel to be the FBI head, this proves that Trump is dead serious about retribution. There's no proof for that either. This is what the Times gives you. Patel was the author of the Nunes memo, Devin Nunes, which is that, claims, the memo claims, according to the memo itself, says that Trump, Republicans, the memo claims that politics drove the Russiagate investigation. And the memo claims that the government spied on the Trump campaign itself. That's what Patel said in the Nunes memo. He said Russiagate was politically driven. It was a partisan witch hunt. And he said that the government, meaning Obama, spied on Trump in 2015, 2016 before the election against Hillary. And then the New York Times says those are bogus claims. Bogus. But they're completely true. How can they say they're bogus? Let's just focus for a second on the claim by Trump that Obama's Justice Department and FBI spied on Trump. The Times is claiming that's bogus. It's completely true. The Obama administration absolutely spied on the campaign of Donald Trump in 2015, 2016. They spied to such a degree that that in 2020, the FBI had to apologize in court for the way it surveilled one of Trump's advisors, Carter Page. Now, how can the New York Times claim that it was bogus for Patel to say that Obama spied on Trump when the FBI acknowledges it spied on Trump? Now, this is their argument. This is what the FBI says. Well, we didn't really spy on Carter Page. We got the FISA court to authorize us to tap the phones of other people, not Carter Page. Yes, Carter Page worked for Trump, but we weren't tapping his line. We were tapping people that he was talking to on the phone, and we just happened to listen to him talking to people that, are people. But we weren't actually tapping his phone. We didn't go into his phones. We just, we tapped our own people's phones, and every now and then Carter Page would call them, and so we could listen in. That's their excuse. That's how they're saying, yeah, we didn't really spy. It's the Times is lying to you. It was true what Patel said. And obviously, there's no question that the investigation, Russiagate, was a pure partisan witch hunt. After all, it all began with the commissioning of the Steele dossier, which I believe was by a Republican company or something that they hired this group. But then when they stopped paying for it, Hillary jumped in and said, oh, no, we'll keep paying for this. You keep coming up with stuff about Trump and Russia, including like a P tape or something. So, yes, it was a partisan-driven witch hunt against Trump, and which is what Patel said, and they were spying on Trump. The Obama Justice Department, the Obama FBI was spying on Trump. So for Kash Patel to be viewed as the retribution for Trump because he told the truth, it's absurd. But this is the lengths. This is the lengths they go to try to smear and undermine Trump. Now, I don't like Trump. I'm not defending Trump. I have a lot of problems with Trump. The border policy is horrific. It's inhumane. I am afraid, I hope, my fingers are crossed, he'll stop the killing in Gaza, but I don't have optimism based on his tight relationship with his major donor there, Mir Mandelson, and with Bibi. Before we get a little bit more on Patel, this is more on Patel, but so why did I call it cash? Because I called it cash in the show description. So he himself calls his business $H, right? So there's your cash. And he, this isn't a great guy. This isn't somebody we should look at and think, oh, he should be the director of the FBI. Not at all. He has, monetized his relationship with Trump, which is very problematic, promoting his business enterprises under his cash logo. Not a serious person, in my opinion. But, focus on what and who he is, not falsely claiming that he is going to be some instrument of retribution. But again, that's where we are with the media. That's where we are. That's how bad things are, is that the media of record is just simply not credible at this point. You cannot believe what they tell you. And it's very, very, very upsetting. Again, we're living, it seems like, in a dystopian nightmare where you can't believe anything that anybody tells you. All right, I will get to this horrible choice by Trump, this Tom Homan to be the border czar, not the director of ICE, just the border czar, whatever the hell that even means. By the way, call me if you can, 240-242-5646. Would love to talk to you, 240-242-5646. But let's get to Chavez DeREMER, who I honestly don't have a ton to say, except she looks like she's a pretty decent choice. Again, she's pro-union. I don't think there's going to be any problem with her confirmation. I think this is good, right? I mean, I don't know where else to go with that. And this is a Trump pick, and this is good. So one of the, and just to briefly touch base on this, pro-union labor chief, and it appears she is pro-union. She's for the PRO Act, which is to make it easier for working people to unionize at their place of business. And as far as I can tell, and you never know what's really happening, but many business execs and corporate types are not happy with her and not happy with this choice and are upset. And if that's true, then that's really good. If that is true, that's really good. I don't know if it's true. I hope it's true. I hope it's not just a deep fake. Oh, we're going to give them, and it may well be, right? I mean, I hope it isn't, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's a deep fake. We're going to give him Chavez DeREMER, but no tariffs, or to the extent we have the tariffs, are going to be subject to tremendous amount of corruption and, self-dealing and all that, where people can buy exemptions and exceptions to the rule. So that'd be terrible. But for now, this is a good choice. And this goes to my argument, which is really why I do this program more than any other. We need an alternative to the Republicrats. They're both awful. They're both unacceptable. Yes, she's not a terrible choice. In fact, she's apparently a good choice. But ultimately, all of this is just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Both parties are horrible. And the fact that Trump can nominate a decent labor secretary or decent candidate for labor secretary tells you the Democrats aren't any better. Their choices are just as bad on balance. Anthony Blinken was one of the worst Secretary of States anyone could imagine. I think Obama had some pretty lousy labor secretaries, as I remember. One of his education secretary, Arnie Duncan, he was a guy right out of the charter school movement. determined to undermine public schools. So just spare me your tales of how awful Trump is and how he's so much worse than anybody else. And if you're going to tell me that, well, all right, you can. So then what you can do is you go ahead and you point to this guy, Tom Homan, right? Because you could say, well, this border czar, he is a Nazi. And he really kind of is. Is it, if we're going to say Tom Homan is a Nazi, then can we say at that point, well, yeah, Trump's picks are that much worse. He's, sui generis. He's just that much different. He's different. Can we say that? Well, I'll answer that question in a minute. Let's listen to this guy.
There is going to be a mass deportation because we just finished a mass illegal immigration crisis on the border.
Incoming border czar Tom Homan warning local and state leaders across the country not to stand in the way of mass deportations.
I've said 100 times in the last week, don't cross that line. It is a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities. Don't test us.
Homan is referring to the...
So he's, obviously threatening, intimidating people. He apparently was making reference to the mayor of Denver who said Denver's going to protect its immigrants.
Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. Within it, a federal statute that can lead to fines or jail time for harboring illegal immigrants.
I believe Tom Homan in every ounce of my being that he literally will arrest mayors who don't cooperate.
Mayor Bill Wells of El Cajon is feeling the push and pull between federal and state law. He points to Senate Bill 54, the California Values Act from 2017 that prohibits local law enforcement from cooperating with ICE.
All right, so this guy is as bad as they come, this guy Homan. He's terrifying, and he's part of the Stephen Millerization of the immigration policy in this country. But as bad as Homan is, and he really is it fair to therefore say, okay, the Republicans are worse? Because that's the argument when I would point out just how awful Kamala was, just how awful Biden's policies were. I do that a lot. And I would hear over and over, well, yeah, they're bad. We don't argue with you. You're right. They're bad. But they're not as bad. The Republicans are worse. They're worse. And you could say, look, W tortured people. And yeah, Obama's responsible for the drones. But after all, Trump, even bulked up that horrible murderous program that Obama put together, right? Or Obama greatly increased in size. So what about Homan? Can we just lay him at the feet of of Trump? Well, there he is, official portrait 2017. He was acting director of ICE under Trump. So, okay, Trump, right? And there you go. Look, 2017, 2018, acting director. Let's look at that. Personal details, awards, presidential rank award. I won a presidential rank award. Why? Because Trump. Look at that date. Look at that year, 2015. Who was president in 2015? Who awarded him that presidential honor? Barack Obama. Homan is a lifer in ICE. Started there back in the 80s. And he was promoted all the way up the ranks and got this honor from President Obama. The Democrat, the great deporter, Barack Obama, is in large part responsible for Tom Homan's rise. Now, you might say, well, Hal, all right, but was he always so bad? Maybe he was kind of a caring guy. Maybe he wasn't just all about deporting and running people out of this country. Maybe there was something decent in him, and the evil came out under Trump. Well, let's look at the record. This is, again, Wikipedia, and I know people can argue Wikipedia isn't the most credible source and this and that. By 2014, Homan had begun to argue that separating children from their caregivers would be an effective means of discouraging illegal border crossings. This is under Obama. Obama gives him an award the next year after he's voiced this cruel, inhumane, sadistic, wholly immoral policy. Obama awards him Presidential Rank Award. At the time when he got that from Obama, the Democrat, that we're all supposed to vote for because they're Democrats and for no other reason. Well, also maybe because if they're black or they're a minority or they're a woman or maybe they're gay if they're Mayor Pete or something. But it's never about policy, right? We never are allowed to argue that their policies are terrible. When President Obama, when Barack Obama gave home the guy who's the intellectual father of the let's separate families at the border, when he got that award, the Washington Post said Tom Homan deports people. Homan deports people, and he's really good at it. Both parties are the problem. The Republicrats are the problem. We will not solve our problems until we rid our country of their misrule, of their control, of the corporate stranglehold over our government through those two parties. That's the only way. You disagree, tell me your different solution. You think Dem Ener's going to work? Dem infiltration, inside-outside strategy? Hell, I tried that for 6 years. I pushed that, not my alone, of course, but with other groups, with organizations. Our Revolution, Progressive Maryland, People's Action. Got us worse off than we were before. It's horrific where we are. We are living through a dystopian nightmare. The only way we're going to break out of it, to break free of it, is if we are able to unite behind an alternative. I argued to virtually nobody's agreement. And I wasn't the only one. But not a lot of others of us out there. In fact, even the other sort of progressive folks certainly, I don't know how progressive Jimmy is these days, Jimmy Dore, not really, but the due distance bros, maybe they're not that progressive. Breonna Joy Gray, we thought, yes, you've got to support Jill Stein, no question. Due distance was very grudging, very critical of the Green Party. It doesn't have to be the Green Party, but we need an alternative. We need people who are completely divorced from, separated from the Democratic Party. I'm going to give you two more little stories to prove what I'm saying here. One is this was posted on Facebook, this meme. All it takes to get universal health care is convincing Americans that paying $2,000 in tax is better than paying $8,000 in health insurance. So the point, obviously, is that with single-payer care, Medicare for all, we pay a fourth as much for much better coverage and universal coverage. That's all true. But there's something very wrong with this meme. It doesn't take convincing Americans. Americans are convinced. Both parties prefer Medicare for all to what we have now. The problem isn't convincing Americans. The problem is that the Unitary Party, the Republican Party, will not pass it because they don't answer to you. They don't answer to the people. They don't answer to voters. They answer only to their donors and the people that they are hoping will provide them with 7, maybe 8-figure parachutes when they leave government, and who bribe them now. That ain't a democracy. The only way we can get it back is if we abandon both parties. But we specifically have to abandon the Democratic Party because they're the party that should be, that in certain ways could be part of the solution, and they've chosen not to be. So I responded, Americans have figured this out. Which candidate party champions Medicare for all? And the answer is none. Neither major party. That's why we didn't vote for them. We voted for Bernie. Now, I agree. There wasn't enough. The Democrat Party primary voters did fall for identity politics twice in a row. They fell for Hillary. They fell for, Jim Clyburn's nonsense. Obama's pressure campaigns worked. It's true. But the bottom line is, Americans would have elected Bernie in 2016. Americans have figured this out. But because neither party champions Medicare for all, what choice do we have? We vote on trade. We vote on endless war, immigration, trans rights, choice, and critical race theory. Some of those are woke issues, some are not. But those are the issues that determine elections. Because the parties won't, they're not on your side. Now, for Mimogi, it's true that Americans aren't demanding it like they could be. Okay, how could we be short of what we should have done, which is nominating and electing Bernie in 2016 and maybe 2020? Or, 2020 also. I mean, Bernie wasn't quite the same Bernie, but he was still better than any other choice. So I'm not sure what else Americans could do. I'm not saying you're wrong, Emogi, but I'm just not sure what Americans need to do or could be doing differently when it comes to Medicare for all. I think it's just the parties aren't with them, and they have no other choice. All right, one last clip I want to play. I played earlier for you that horrific video of Rubio where he defends Israel's murderous rampages and pogroms through Gaza. And just, to my way of thinking, proves how totally awful he is and how he should not be the State Department secretary. But a lot of people don't agree. But before we hear from one of them, let's just get Medea back one more time just to respond. Just give us really where we are with and why this guy, Rubio, is such a bad choice for the position of Secretary of State. So let me see if I can. Struggling a little bit. I want to get. Yeah, that's the problem. All right, here we go.
Senator Marco Rubio, who we ran into in the halls of Congress, and he had called us Hamas supporters because we want to stop killing babies. So here is our response to Senator Rubio. This conflict, Senator Rubio, did not start on October 7th. It was preceded by decades of soul-crushing oppression against Palestinians that you and many other senators have refused to acknowledge. Oppression and despair is what led to October 7th. Despite billions in U.S. weapons, Israel will not be able to crush Hamas militarily. Why? Because with every bomb that kills more innocent people, more Palestinians are determined to take up arms. Many of today's Hamas fighters were orphaned in previous Israeli incursions into Gaza. You really need to understand this fact, Senator Rubio. There will never be peace in Israel until there is justice for Palestinians. Make sure you post this.
All right, so very, very powerful by Medea, and making it very clear that the pro-Zionist at all cost policies of Rubio and many others, and by the way, you can see in that clip, let me see if I can show it to you because I really want you to see it, how he has that American flag right outside his office. And to me, again, that's That's traitorous. That's truly traitorous. You can't, how can you have a flag of another country, right? How can he have a flag of another country outside his office? That's just so wrong. You know, his loyalty has to be, or should only be, to the United States. Let me just show you. So there you see that American flag. And his policies, the Zionist policies, are incredibly dangerous to Israel, to the United States. People hate Israel, people hate the United States as a direct result of the genocidal policies that we're pursuing and that Rubio clearly supports. So he has no business being Secretary of State. Is that what your progressive Democratic position is? Is that what they think? Well, let's find out. Let's go to one of them. Here's, considered often, I guess, the second most progressive, maybe the second most left Senator, Elizabeth Warren. She seems to like Marco Rubio. I'll tell you who she doesn't like, or she'll tell you who she doesn't like, but she's perfectly fine with Marco Rubio.
That would cause me to say, I don't think that he should be Secretary of State. And we'll go through that. We'll listen to the hearings. I want to hear very carefully from him. But what we're talking about with people like Matt Gaetz is very different from what we're talking about with people like Marco Rubio. And we just have to keep that in mind. But do understand with Matt Gaetz, and you've already made this point, he's not the only one out there who is unqualified and who...
So she thinks, Rubio, guy who has a Israeli flag outside his office, who's all in for Israeli genocide, he's qualified, according to Elizabeth Warren. Who isn't, according to Elizabeth Warren?
Raises whole questions like Tulsi Gabbard does. You really want her to have all of the secrets of the United States and our defense intelligence agencies when she has so clearly been in Putin's pocket?
All right, so I'll stop. So I've played that clip before. Elizabeth Warren lying about Tulsi Gabbard. She is not in Putin's pocket. You can see from the New York Times, no evidence has emerged that she ever collaborated in any way with Russia's intelligence agencies. If there was any evidence that she did or that she had any financial agreement or arrangement with Vladimir Putin, this is, by the way, the same thing with Jill Stein. People say this all the time. Oh, she's in his pocket. She's this. She's a Russian asset. No evidence. It's just a load of crap. The only thing there is an agreement by both Tulsi and Jill Stein that the U.S. shouldn't be making war with Russia. We shouldn't be involved in a proxy war with Russia, which is also Russia's position. So you want to say because she agrees with Russia that we shouldn't be at war with Russia, she's a Russian asset or a Putin puppet or whatever? That's how absurd your position is. She doesn't want war with Russia. Tulsi doesn't want war with Russia. And that's who Elizabeth Warren is dead set against becoming Secretary, Defense, National, National Intelligence Director. Extraordinary. That's your Democratic Party. That's why we need to go in a different direction. That's about as far to the left as you can get and be in the Democratic Party. That's Elizabeth Warren. That's why we need to go in a different direction. By the way, Emogi pointing out that I incorrectly said that Rubio had an American flag outside of his office. He does have an American flag outside of his office, but that's not what I was decrying. I was decrying his Israeli flag. That's what my issue is. He's not an American. His loyalties are clearly not just to the American people, not just to the American government. And if that's the case, how can he be a good choice as a qualified? Because Elizabeth Warren says this guy is qualified. You're not qualified. I mean, there's so much wrong with this. Warren is beefing because she falsely claims that Tulsi is a Russian asset, is a Putin puppet. Who's the puppet? Marco Rubio's the puppet of Israel, of Bibi Netanyahu. There's just no way we're going to address the existential threats we face unless we move away, unless we abandon the Democrats just as much as we must move away from the Republican Party. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Thank you, Billy, for calling in. Really appreciate that. And I'll be back tomorrow.